Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juan Carlos, host of Inspiral Hacks. And today we have a special guest. Our guest is Richard Hagen. First, before I tell a little more about Richard, how are you today?
Juan Carlos, I'm brilliant. It's lovely to be with you for this meeting with your audience and those who follow Inspiral Hacks.
Wonderful. So for the audience out there, welcome back to another episode, and one of episode very special because today we're going to go to a very important subject, which is about the world of publishing. So let me tell you about a little bit about Richard, and then I will give you, Richard, also the word so you can tell us a little bit more. Just to understand, Richard is helping experts becoming leaders through publishing books with the right value. And you know, Richard also has a long career in the publishing world. He's going to tell us much more about it. And here we go. Richard, welcome to our show. Could you tell us a little bit how was the world of publishing in your experience?
Crazy, always changing, very dynamic, very confusing, very exciting. And I suppose the reason I'm in it is because it's all about transformation. At least at its best, that's what it does. It takes us to worlds that we've never been to before. It blows our minds with new ideas and equips us with powerful tools to create change in our lives when it works really brilliantly. So that's the world of publishing at the moment, but it's not always been my world. I've always loved books, but I actually was in a community, a religious community, a Catholic community of preachers, teachers, storytellers, and that's where I started my publishing journey 30 years ago or so. And ever since then, I've always been involved with publishing to this day until now. I've got my own publishing company and work with amazing experts to create transformation for their people.
Wonderful. You know, for our community out there, I learned from a masterclass of Richard about the importance of value. And there were so many topics that resonated with our journey when we are entrepreneurs, when we are leaders. And this is why I am so blessed that we have this opportunity to learn today from Richard. Richard, could you tell us, what do you consider that in the world of now that we have entrepreneurs being told everywhere, write your book, publish your book. Now you can be a self-publisher. What do you consider that entrepreneurs are actually doing right at this moment that they should keep doing?
I think great entrepreneurs, if they are thinking of a book or it's being they're being encouraged to write a book or create a course, they should really do what they do well in their business already, which is get strategic, is to think deeply about things, figure out the landscape, and only when they know this is valuable, it makes sense, it will deliver value for my audience, it will deliver value for my business. Only when you've done that work, then think about what kind of book, what course. I see so many entrepreneurs who are really smart, making really fundamental mistakes before they even start to write their book, because they've swallowed the fantasy and the romance around books, what they'll do for your business, what they'll do for you, turn you into the go-to expert, all of that stuff. And they forget to be strategic. They forget to be smart. This is terrain you don't know. It's a world full of brilliant people and snake oil salesmen. And how do you know the difference? You know it in your own market, but how do you know it in the authoring, in the publishing, in the transformation space? So that's my thing, and it's very unusual to hear publishers or people in the book development or course development space talking like this, and it's one of the reasons I love meeting your audience, being with you, Juan Carlos. There are 100 voices saying it's easy, just knock out the book and everything will change for you. And I will be that one person who goes, figure out the value first and then see if it's a good idea.
Correct, correct. And in growth hacking, when we apply growth hacking in our agency, in our businesses, normally we always start with awareness, being aware of where we are standing. Yet everyone wants to grow so fast. Everyone wants to get so much traction. So they start just doing, and sometimes they forget to monitor, to evaluate, to learn, to optimize. And that's also where when I heard you in the masterclass that I was learning from you, and we were considering about like how do you really share value with others. What could, may I ask you, will be, for example, one of the strategic skills, or maybe one of those tips that you could give us, that and let's say a potential author should consider the moment that they really want to deliver value with their books?
Oh, what's the one thing? Okay, so there are loads of how to write better tips and tricks. And you can, there's a 1,000 blogs and a million books written on all of that stuff. But I think the most valuable thing you can do is, first of all, be brutally focused on your audience and what it is they are desperate for, and what disappoints them or lets them down in the market as it is. So everybody's bought the 5 magical step solutions that never work, never did, never will. Everybody's bought the 3 ways to become a social media influencer and millionaire by tomorrow. Okay, and you know the complexity of the challenges that your audience faces. You know the temptations to go quick fix, instant solutions. So what is it that you really want to create for your audience that shows profoundly that you can deliver massive value to them? And the way they know that is by delivering value to them, not talking about it, or you'll get it in the next book, or you'll get it in the next course, but create something that absolutely changes their life. Otherwise, why should they bother with you over anybody else?
Exactly. And sometimes this process is not really something that we do shortly. I mean, yesterday I was in a meeting and I heard that an author went through a process of at least between 9 to 12 months to put a book out there. And they finally did it with an internal team. And these 12 months, which normally, okay, for business, we always need the time to develop what we're creating. Yet sometimes if we are really doing something for the wrong reasons, can be actually more hurtful than helping us. In that sense, if I may add, Richard, we normally have also this intriguing question when we say, like, could you share with us something that happened to you that was quite hard to overcome, and maybe what was the lesson that you learned from this situation?
I'll chat about something within our publishing experience. And it kind of links back to that time development thing, which is that and there may be some resonance with that person that you described or spoke about, which is we have started to work with authors in the past. So people who are really smart, people who are really good, they're experts in the field. And they think that all they need to do is write stuff down. And that's what will make their book. And they are preoccupied with information, the stuff they know. and they start to write. And one of the hardest things I found is really trying to get them to stop being focused on information. Because they're super comfortable with that. It's the stuff it's what they do every day. Is they use this tool, they talk about the stuff, and they think that just by writing about that in their book, that it will create results. And the hardest thing is to kind of work with them, encourage them to step out of that comfort zone and go, actually, no one is interested in your information until they have a deep connection with you and a deep trust that you're on their side, that you're emotionally committed to them, that you're an advocate for them. They literally don't care about your information. Before they pay attention to anything you say, you want to know you're on their side. And but they can do it one-to-one when they're in a room or on stage when they're speaking, but in a book, it's remote. You can't see the eyes, you can't see the body, you can't take your cues. So the hardest thing for us is to say, right, your experience until now does not equip you to write a brilliant book, because it's either one-to-one or it's with an audience. And what you're writing from and what you're writing about is super comfortable to you, but it's disconnected to that reader in their sitting room on their own, curled up on the sofa, wanting something to happen to them. And it's just stuff. And it doesn't have value. And it's the biggest challenge, because you cannot write a transformational book, a value-driven book, from your comfort zone. So the hardest thing for us as mentors for authors and as publishers is to help the thing is we've learned is we cannot get someone out of their comfort zone. That's entirely up to them. That if they want to write purely from the comfort space, the book will be stuff. It'll be bland, generic stuff. The author will not change in that process. And I think that's the thing, is the hardest thing is to help a writer realize that an author doesn't write stuff down. An author changes, they change, and that change allows them to author a different experience for the reader. So yeah, sorry, that was a bit of a random
That was
collection, but
perfect.
yeah.
That was perfect, Richard. Thank you very much. It resonated in so many levels. More than just going to me telling about a story, I would just like to add that indeed, as you mentioned, that the people, not sometimes we suffer so much from things that we think that others say or believe about us. And in the other side of the coin, sometimes we think that what we are or what we did cares so much to the rest of the people, and we don't validate it. So in both cases, if there's no validation, we ended up suffering.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my people who know me well quite often go, "Oh, Richard's on one of his rants." It's one of my kind of passion things, which is that I go to lots of speaking events, lots of business events, and the more I hear the speaker say "I," the less valuable they are. And it is this difference. Like, you can have climbed Everest with one leg, with the other, with an arm tied behind your back in the worst blizzard in 500 years. It is of no value to me. My experience is so profoundly different, unless that you as a speaker, you as a writer, you as an author, utterly transform your story and make it about me. And you can use your story, but if it's just your story you're telling, what's the value? You've got to change the story for me. And I think that's one thing, a big challenge in a huge amount of business speaker space and in the business book space is people want to tell their story. right, I can go and buy an autobiography. I want change. So how do I change my story? Write that book
Yeah.
for me. So yeah.
Could that be defined a little bit of writing with empathy?
Empathy.
Because we normally tend to hear now, well, I also
Yeah.
use it, that we should listen with empathy. We should listen, we should put ourselves in the shoes of the other person when we're
Yeah.
listening in order to not to react. But it sounds to me also that it is putting ourselves in the shoes of our lectors as well. Will be
Yeah.
right.
So I mean, I think I mentioned empathy when we were in the masterclass together, that it is the starting point,
Okay.
I think, for any creation of value. Otherwise, anything that we tend to do is very easily experienced as manipulative or weak or controlling. Whereas, and I think this is the difference between creating rapport. I mean, I'm trained to trainer level in NLP, and there's a massive focus around rapport building techniques and creating rapport. Empathy is profoundly different. Empathy isn't technique based. It's not matching and pacing and leading. Empathy is a deep willingness to connect with, to appreciate, to understand both the brilliance of the person that you're with and their deep challenges, and that you have a real sense of the real challenges, not the superficial ones that people try to put plaster, what do you call them, band-aids, that's the word. You deal with deep change because you care deeply about them. So empathy, and there are some people you can't be empathetic towards, so why sell to them? Why work with them? You're not going to be able to deliver that profound value that you have, because you're just shouting at them, throwing stuff at them. You know, yeah, empathy is the starting point and it's the foundation, and it is that essential element before you talk about you or talk about your stuff or your information. They have to know you're on their side.
Wonderful indeed.
Yeah.
If we try to shoot at everyone, we ended up aiming, hitting no one.
Exactly, and I think that's in the business space, and I quite often, if in early conversation at networking, I'll say, "Who can you help?" And you go, "Anyone," and in that moment, I know they can help almost nobody
Yeah.
because they're focused on their process or their service rather than the results and the kind of transformation that they can achieve for somebody. And I'm not saying that they can't do that, but in that desperate attempt to be reaching everybody, I mean, this a reader sits on their own in a room or a train or wherever, or listen to the audiobook. They're profoundly alone. This is you're in a position no hypnotist or magician or speaker is ever in. You start when they read the book, you're speaking in their own voice inside their head. That's the most profound intimacy that we can have. That I've written something down, I've painted this picture in words, and they read it, and it's their voice that says I, you. That's magic. But people disrespect that intimacy, and that's why it's an art. It's the art of writing narrative, creating emotional connection. It doesn't happen in the same way as writing a business proposal or a blog. It's in that intimacy of their head and their heart. You can profoundly change them. And business books, nobody wants to be honest about that because they want you to think it's easy to write a good book. It's easy to get results. It's not. It's profoundly challenging, and that is the work of an author, to really create that intimate change inside somebody who you may never meet. So at least respect them enough to craft and have them and their journey in your head when you're writing and not just your own.
Wow. That's magical indeed. Thank you, Richard. And exactly, that's why I'm very thankful that we had this opportunity to share this knowledge with entrepreneurs and founders that are following us in Inspiral Hacks, as well as the communities where we belong as well here in Europe, as in the Netherlands and in other countries. With that said, Richard, if one of our fellow visitors or in our community would love to get in touch with you to understand that about this magical connection that can be done with the right set of skills for an author or a potential author, how could they reach you best, Richard?
I mean, the simplest is LinkedIn. You can, so my name is Richard Hagen, Hagen. If you do a search on LinkedIn for Richard Hagen Publisher, you'll track me down, say hello, and let's connect on there. Or you can find me at Immersive Publishing, which is immersive.pub, and there's usually a booking thing there. And I'm kind of experimenting with a bit of a personal brand, which is called hagendoes.com, so having a little bit of fun around there, so you can explore them. LinkedIn's probably the easiest way.
Wonderful. Immersive Publishing, everyone. We're going to make sure we have all the links right here for you to connect with Richard. And of course, if you have any questions for us or for Richard, just please leave it in the comments and we will make sure to get it in the right location. If you like this content, please subscribe with us and let us know how could you get your next exciting idea into the real world of publishing. You know, we are with Richard here, and becoming from experts to becoming leaders is something that we can do together. Richard, thank you very much. I wish you a wonderful time and wonderful day, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. Thanks for this opportunity to meet your great tribe. Take care.